So in this video, I want to share an experience that happened less than 12 hours ago that will give you a couple of ideas for how to best handle really difficult situations. You could call them crisis. Maybe not crisis, but it depends on its potential for crisis. Let's put it that way. A situation that has potential for crisis. How about that? So I'm sitting in my home this morning. It's Saturday morning. It's just a few hours after the eye wall of tropical storm Ophelia passed through. Although when it passed by, it was a couple miles an hour from a hurricane. So it was essentially a hurricane, and it was very slow moving. So we were getting battered by this for many hours. It started really hitting us to some degree yesterday afternoon, and then it got steadily worse, and then it was just raging through the night. And so in this process, this storm was more than it was expected. So the amount of preparation that went into it was probably not to the degree that you would if you knew you were going to actually get essentially a hurricane. And so, I took care of the normal stuff, the shutters down, all those kinds of things. We left a few things outside because a tropical storm and not getting the full brunt, it would be okay. And so about halfway through the day yesterday, as the water's coming up and the waves are pounding, and I can see that my neighbor's boat is not tied down well enough, and that the waves are already starting to push it off of the boat lift. And I don't know how tight it is. Apparently they tried to tie it down. But you could see it was just a matter of time if the storm didn't let up that was going to break loose. And the angle of the storm meant that was going to come directly at me, right at my house and beach and things. And so most of the day, I was very, very busy. It was on my mind a little, but I was very, very busy. And then once we got into the early evening, I didn't have, I had shut down work for the day, and the storm was just getting bigger and stronger. That's when we were realizing, oh, geez, this thing is going to be a big storm and not, just part of a little tropical storm, which is not that big a deal. And oh, look, power just came back on right when I was with you. Thank you. And so, during this period of time, it was a couple hours as I watched the boat eventually break loose, come across and start battering our beach area and threatening our trees and our deck and creating a lot of problems, which is what it's. I went from fear and worry to perseveration, where you start to think, oh my gosh, if that happens, then that's going to happen, and then that's going to happen, and then that's going to happen, and which is natural, right? Everybody goes through that, and so the beginning of the actual teaching part of this is that everything goes through your feelings before it gets to your logical brain. That's just the natural part of being a human being. Everything is emotion to logic. And when you work at self-awareness, which is the first quadrant of being a really, successful human, because understanding yourself, part of understanding yourself is understanding feelings and knowing that feelings aren't you, they're just something you experience, they're triggers. And so you have the emotion, and the sooner you can get to the point where you can go, okay, I acknowledge this is what I'm feeling. And then you move to the logical side about, okay, let's think about why I'm feeling this, right? You don't do this practically, but you can do it instinctively and experientially the more you're training on understanding this kind of stuff. And then you have to have some kind of hacks to do it. So I'm going to give you one today that I learned from Stephen Covey back in the early 90s that's helped me dramatically. And I teach this as a concept. And I'm just explaining to you how it happened in real life. And so once I recognize, okay, the boat's coming over, it's going to do damage, so what's the worst case, right? So it's beginning to shift from concern, the circle of concern, which are the things in your life you cannot control, right? I cannot control the weather. There's nothing you can do about a boat that's being battered up against your shoreline by 4 to 5 foot seas, and it weighs 1,000 or 2,000 pounds. You just have to let it ride, right? So you get to this place in any situation you're in where you have to settle and get past the I wish I wasn't in this situation, or I don't know what's going to happen from this situation. You have to get past that and go, I'm in it. I'm now in it. Let's go in. Let's lean in and get the experience. And so once I got to that place, which took me maybe a couple hours to really come to that, right? It's natural, right? The emotional part's natural. You can't beat yourself up for it. You have to recognize it, pull it apart, let it sit, and then you move through. And so then it was settling into, okay, I can't control the circle of concern because I don't control those things. What I can control is what I can influence and what I can affect. That's the circle of influence, or in this case, the circle of control. And so there were 3 specific things that I personally did. One little side nugget is once I got to the place where I'm like, I'm in it. I might as well experience this thing. I took the dogs out during a slight break in the rain. It was flipping howling and I mean, just crazy outside. And they needed to go out to go to the bathroom. So I took them out and I put my raincoat on and I went and just stood under a tree and just felt the storm. It was so cool. The wind just whipping by and the mist of the rain that was still coming but not intensely flying on my face and hearing rain then beat down on my raincoat and on my head, and then seeing the dogs as they're kind of like walking like this because the wind is blowing their hair so hard. It was pretty cool. Right? It was a pretty cool experience. And so that's leaning into it. I was appreciating the experience. But the 3 things I did on purpose is, one, is I shifted my outlook, right? Once I thought about, okay, so what's the worst thing that could happen? This will happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. If all those things happen relative to the beach and the bulkhead and all these things, I'm still going to be okay. This isn't going to hurt our house. Life will be fine. It'll be a little inconvenient. It'll cost some money, but it's stuff. You can fix it. In the big picture of life, this is nothing. Right? This is just another event, and not even that significant of an event, which is a far cry from the initial feelings. And that's a normal thing. That's part of the process. So first I shifted my outlook. I'm like, all right, I'm fortunate to even have this challenge, to be in a situation where this could be the problem that I have. The next thing I shifted was my focus. I didn't spend a single second on, I can't believe that boat is here causing damage. I can't believe I'm in this situation because of blah, blah. That's focusing on the problem. That's irrelevant at this point. What's relevant is that it exists. And so I started thinking about, okay, so what will our options be once this is all over? We'll assess it, right? We'll have to get the trees looked at. We'll have to get this looked at. We'll have to consider options for how to repair things. We'll have to have some discussions between ourselves with, Mel and I and the neighbors who were involved in this. So the point is, the focus then becomes on the solution. No longer do you focus at all on the cause of the problem. That is a waste at this point. And this is true whether you are solving a project management issue. It doesn't matter what you're trying to solve. Your focus is on solution, not why you're in this situation in the first place. That is a waste of your space. And then the third thing that I focused on was my response. And I mean the human response. And again, one of my emotions that I brought out through this that made me very peaceful is to be grateful that I'm actually in a situation where A, I could even have this kind of problem, and B, that I can handle fixing it. So I'm grateful for that. And then the other thing is kindness. I could be angry and frustrated with the people who were responsible for that taking place, right? Who were negligent, right? But that won't serve anything. I mean, what would that gain? I'm going to be kind. I already have been kind in interactions because that's the right thing to do. The person's going to feel bad enough already. Why do I need to pile on to it? Now, we're going to end up having some hard discussions later when we discuss, costs, etc., like that. And what better way, right, to enter a hard discussion except from a platform of kindness prior. And so that's how you manage what you can control. There's other things too. I just didn't want to spend forever on figuring them out for this message. Those are what I wrote when I was sitting in my back den upstairs in a room that's like, it's crazy. You can't hear anything. It was as if the storm wasn't going on in that room. Shooting a game of pool by myself and had some candles lit and a little music playing. And that's when I was brainstorming this little message to serve you and how my experience could serve you, because that is a recipe for how to handle yourself in situations and successfully navigate them, reducing stress. Give yourself the space to recognize how you're feeling and then shift things. Go to what you can control that will help you in any difficulty in any corner of your life. If you're new to my content, I have a blog that you can sign up for, Tburrier.com, where you will get videos like this or a written message, typically no more than once a week. Occasionally I might do a second one. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I occasionally post blogs there and maybe a little content. I have a Facebook fan page that I produce some content on. But there's lots of free training, and also YouTube, of course, and where I've got tons of free training out there that can serve you and help you, because my mission is to help people create the life they want and become the best person they can and do the best they possibly can in this life. Hope you have a great day and you got value here.